As boxing fans, we talk a lot about trilogies from the past where fighters have fought multiple fights. Tony Zale and Graziano, Ali and Frazier, or multiple, Ali and Frazier, 3 big fights. Duran Leonard, but this 3 fights were terrible in many ways because they literally, one was going to be killed because of it, and one couldn't recover after killing his main opponent in the ring. So today we're going to be talking about the third and unfortunately fatal end of the Benny Paret Emile Griffith trilogy, where Benny died in the 12th round as a result of Griffith's key punches in that round. Some published reports say 35. I looked at the tape, ladies and gentlemen, which is still out there on YouTube. It's got to be like 23 or 25 consecutive punches without any response by Kid Paret. Now, Benny Paret versus Emile Griffith III was the trio meeting between Kid Paret and Emile Griffith for the welterweight boxing championship. The fight occurred almost more than 60 years ago on March 24th, Saturday at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Paret came into the match as the reigning welterweight champion. This would be the deciding rubber match. Unfortunately, in the previous fight, he had a very, very tough battle against Gene Fullmer in a middleweight title contest, and allegedly suffered partial brain damage in the fight. Now, the match was broadcast live by ABC on its weekly box sports program, Fight of the Week. The contest was both notable and controversial for the punishment Paret took in that 12th round, which led to a loss by knockout. Now, Paret, from his injuries, died in the hospital 10 days later. The match has been cited as one of the main reasons for the decline of boxing as a mainstream televised sport until Ali saved it in the late 1960s and early 70s, but it led to political calls for bans on boxing bouts. Now, this contest was the third meeting between Paret and Griffith for what was called at the time the lineal welterweight title. Now, the National Boxing Association, the Ring magazine, also recognized it as the World Crown. On April 1st, 61, in his first title offense, Paret was defeated by Griffith in the 13th round by KO. In her second meeting on September 30th, 61, Paret recaptured the welterweight crown by a controversial split decision. Although Paret had been battered in the 2 fights with Griffith and in the December 61 middleweight fight with Gene Fullmer, he decided that he would defend his welterweight title against Griffith 3 months after the Fullmer fight. Now, Paret-Griffith again was booked for MSG on Saturday, March 24th, 62. With Paret as the reigning champion, Griffith was heavily favored by Vegas odds makers as a 2-7 top bet to win and recapture the title. But the trouble started the morning of the fight at the customary weigh-in. Paret needled Griffith with an insult in Spanish while Griffith stood on the scales. Contemporary newspaper reports described the exchange without being specific about the insult, but did say that when asked afterward to pose with Paret for photos, that Griffith replied, "I better not. I'm liable to swing right now." The insult leveled by Paret was a médicon, understood by both boxers to mean faggot. Now, Griffith had worked in a hat factory, and there was heavy rumors of either his homosexuality and bisexuality well before the contest. Now, Griffith also designed hats after women working in a women's hat factory. Griffith would come out many years later as bisexual, but in 1962 allegations of homosexuality were considered fatal to an athlete's career and a particularly grievous insult in the culture both fighters came from. Griffith was enraged by Paret's taunt at the weigh-in and it set the tone for the fight that evening. Now, Paret was from Cuba, and Griffith, although his ancestry was an American, St. Thomas and the Virgin Islands was a very, very, what he called, open society at the time. Now, in the fight, in the 6th round, Paret came close to stopping Griffith with a multi-punch combination, but Griffith was saved by the bell. After the 6th round, Griffith's trainer, the great Gil Clancy, later said he told him, "When you go inside, I want you to keep punching until Paret holds you or the referee breaks you." but you keep punching until he does that. In the 12th round of the fight, legendary announcer Don Dunphy, who was calling the bout for ABC, remarked, "This is probably the tamest round of the entire fight." Seconds later, Griffith backed Paret into the corner and unleashed a massive flurry of punches to the champion's head. Paret was likely dazed by the initial shots, but at this point still not put his gloves up to defend himself. Paret then slumped to the side against the ropes, his head and part of his upper body now out of the ring. Griffith held his opponent's shoulder, keeping in position while using his free hand to hit Paret. As Griffith repeatedly landed right uppercuts on Paret's head, Paret occasionally moved his arms, his head still outside the ring, but referee Ruby Goldstein explained what he was seeing. From long experience in boxing, I have seen on numerous occasions boxers deliberately put their heads a little out of the ring, and this sometimes can be used as a sort of a means of avoiding to be getting hit cleanly. Now at the time, Griffith was throwing quite a few punches, but Paret seemed to get his hand up and block a number of them and roll with a couple of them. I thought this possibility was his strategy to roll out of this position. He's get his head back in the ring. I observed that twice he got his head back into the ring. Slow motion analysis of the fight accounts for between 26 and 29 unanswered punches thrown by Griffith during the flurry. Now I counted 31, but that's just a rough count. What I would see, there were some pitter-pat punches as well. Now, Manuel Alfaro, Paret's manager, was criticized for not retiring his boxing with a timely throwing in of the towel at this point in the bout. Alfaro did say that I screamed for Goldstein to stop it, but apparently he didn't hear me. Again, after the 29 consecutive punches recorded, Goldstein stepped in, grabbed Griffith from the side, and called a halt to the bout, thereby awarding Griffith a win by technical knockout. Immediately after the referee intervened, Paret, who has remained on his feet throughout, slowly slid to the floor and collapsed in a corner. Initially, the thought be from exhaustion. Paret's team and Dr. Alexander Schiff of the New York State Athletic Commission surrounded Paret to attend to him. Griffith's team raised his arms with him when victory was announced, though immediately after, Griffith returned to the corner Paret had collapsed in to check on him and was sent away. After a few minutes, Paret was carried from the ring on a stretcher. Now, Griffith told ABC interviewer Don Dunphy immediately after Paret was carried from the ring, "I'm very proud to be the welterweight champion again, and I hope Paret is feeling very good," which they will not tell me how he feels. Dunphy then introduced what was in hindsight being cited as the first use of instant replay in United States television history, after asking a clearly uncomfortable Griffith to walk through the bout's final seconds with him in detail. After the broadcast ended with the seriousness of the situation became known, Griffith went to the hospital where Paret was being treated and unsuccessfully attempted for several hours to gain entry to Paret's room. Following that, he ran through the streets while being insulted by passers-by. Now, Paret, never having regained consciousness after the bout, died 10 days later at Roosevelt Hospital in Manhattan from massive brain hemorrhaging. Now, Paret-Griffith tree was the subject of many controversies. It is theorized that one of the reasons Paret died was that he was vulnerable due to the beatings he took in his previous 3 fights, all of which happened within 12 months of each other. Now, there was a published article in Ring magazine in 1973 which had the analyzing of autographs, and according to the writer of the article, Paret was showing brain damage within his response to his autograph. Now, New York State boxing authorities were criticized for giving Paret clearance to fight just several months after the devastating Fulmer fight. Referee Ruby Goldstein, a respected veteran, came under criticism for not stopping the fight sooner. He did explain in a later interview, "I never blamed myself, but some of the people blame me for not stopping it sooner." Sooner? If the fight was being fought right now, I wouldn't stop it sooner. Paret was a good, durable fighter who looked in trouble early in the round, but he'd come back to fire punches and win the round. He was the champion. You give the champion a chance to fight back. It was been argued that Goldstein hesitated because Paret's reputation of feigning injury and Griffith's reputation as a poor finisher. Another theory is that Goldstein was afraid that Paret's supporters would riot. Goldstein would later reveal that he himself was scared by the event, having nightmares, severe insomnia, and flashbacks to the fight. Though officially declared of wrongdoing by the New York State Elected Commission, Goldstein let his license to referee fights lapse. After later applying for a new license, he would referee only one more fight in his career in March '64 before retiring permanently. Now, New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller created a 7-man commission to investigate the incident in the sport. This fight, among others, such as the nationally televised Davey Moore versus Sugar Ray Ramos contest in March '63, would cause Moore's death, gradually led to the decline of boxing as a popular televised sport. Ultimately, ABC announced in December '63 that it would cancel the Fight of the Week program, and in September '64, the series ended. Professional boxing would not be televised on a regular basis again after that decline until the '70s with the Ali resurgence, and was only rarely aired in prime time until the following decade, and then not frequently in the major networks. Now, with the Ali Spinks series, there was a lot of boxing shown in the late '70s, early '80s, but on ABC again, it was a very infrequent thing. Griffith would later receive hate mail from Paret supporters who were convinced he had intentionally killed Paret. He reportedly felt guilt over Paret's death and suffered nightmares about him for 40 years. Now, the fight in the widespread publicity and criticizing boxing which accompanied it became the basis of the 2015 documentary Ring of Fire, the Emile Griffith story. At the end of the documentary, Griffith, who had harbored guilt over the incident over the years, is introduced to Paret's son. The son embraced Griffith and told him he was forgiven. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you right now that fight on YouTube tells the whole tale. It seemed around punch 15 of the flurry, Paret was literally dead on his feet, or was about to die on his feet. Griffith did not stop throwing punches. All I know, ladies and gentlemen, the weigh-in, if Paret said that to Griffith was out to kill, and Griffith wasn't a dirty fighter. Griffith was basically a contact fighter. Just like Ali, he would not have a devastating knockout punch. But Paret, again, was it because of the first and second fights with Griffith? Was it a fight with Fulmer? Was he capable of defending himself in the fight because he did have some cranial issues entering the fight? Paret should not have fought against Griffith. One person for Ring Magazine said a decade after the fight in a massive article, he said Paret was not capable of being a protective fighter. He couldn't protect himself because he was open to major blows. But the Fulmer fight, if you watch that, ladies and gentlemen, he took a lot of hard blows. So, what was the fault of Paret? Was it Paret itself for going back in the ring? The Athletic Commission for not protecting him? His handlers not protecting him? But Griffith was called a certain name at the weigh-in, and that it was a perfect storm of incidents. So, ladies and gentlemen, we bring this information on the Paret-Griffith 3 as a public service. We're not talking about it to for the sake of getting more hits on his channel. This is a part of boxing history we need to talk about, because if you don't protect the fighters, things like Griffith killing Paret will happen. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our Vintage Sports Podcast, let us know with a like, comment, and subscribe. And this is dedicated to my good friend, the former boxer and current actor and jack of all trades, including a stonemason, the great Derek Hamilton of West Vancouver, BC, who can always tell you, like many fighters can, protect yourself at all times. Thanks for listening. Bye.